Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stefan Spencer, and today we have Jim Christian with us. He's the former director of SEO for Godaddy for almost a decade. Jim brings a wealth of experience to the table when it comes to all things search-related. He currently owns a boutique agency in Phoenix, helping enterprise-level brands untangle complex problems that evade detection. Jim also runs the Advanced Search Summit, and a passion project that gives back to the community by helping others innovate in the digital marketing space. He continually strives to create memorable experiences for attendees by bringing in the greatest talent our industry has to offer while choosing unique venues. Jim, it's so great to have you on the show.
Yeah, good to be here too. Thanks for the invitation. Much appreciated.
Yeah. So let's talk about, first of all, COVID and the pandemic and how it's affected, for one, your world as someone who runs a conference, and more generally, how does it affect everybody who's listening, and how do they pivot or adapt into this new normal?
I mean, the new normal is, I don't think anything that anyone was looking forward to, that's for sure. It's been a whirlwind, actually, for the last little bit over a year now, and it's challenging. I mean, it definitely has its challenges. We've been struggling on our side to, figure out, do we try to thread the needle if COVID is going to be coming to an end? Luckily, it looks like it is. So we're really excited about that. But, more so trying to figure out where does the world go from here? Like, how do we really adapt? Because the new norm is definitely not going back to the old norm. We know that. And in fact, we have some clients too on the agency side where, they're kind of looking to us as how are you guys doing it? What are you doing? How do we move forward from this? So it's been challenging for sure. I know that a lot of events have still kind of pushed off until next year or very, very late this year. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting challenge for sure, but I think that we've adapted to it. We're a smaller event for Advanced Search Summit. I don't think we've ever exceeded 200 people, and mainly we don't really want to. We want to stay small so that everyone isn't kind of packed in like a bunch of sardines. But we've been, trying to grapple with how do we continue to do our summit in Napa in June and still have safety protocols put in place, not only by ourselves, but with the hotel and our other partners as well. So, it's been quite the challenge.
Yeah. So what do you think is the new normal for working from home and from the standpoint of business travel?
It's going to be rough. I mean, if you're talking about enterprise, I think most of them are going to allow travel back once they think that they can do so in a way where their employees won't be in any sort of danger. I know that a couple of the larger companies that we deal with are pushing off any travel until after June. So some of them are doing that. Others, like our friend Jim Boykin, he's basically halted travel, I believe, and also moved completely virtual too. So I think that, I think it's depending on people's comfortability, right? Like, I think for us and like the conference as an example, we want to do the thing that everyone would be comfortable with. So like everyone wears masks. Everyone has, a gift bag that contains, stuff to clean their hands and additional masks just in case they need them during the show. So I think if people kind of rise to that kind of level of providing safety for their employees, I think everything will be fine. Actually, interesting thing, Texas just opened up again. Arizona, being the rebel that we are, we just opened up everything. Masks are still required, but there's no restrictions on indoor dining or how many people can be in a restaurant, et cetera, et cetera. So it's interesting how fast this is changing. I mean, it's definitely moving at a pace where I was shocked. So I don't know how people will necessarily do it long term. I mean, I've heard that COVID is going to be endemic at this point. So this will be around potentially forever, and it's just going to be like another flu shot that we get every year. But it's interesting to see how that's going to morph business. I think from my standpoint and all of our employees that we have here, I mean, we're all virtual. We we'll have to find new and inventive ways to get together. I think it'll probably be virtual. Like we might do some wine tastings or team building exercises that are virtual. So maybe that's the way for us to go. I'm not really sure. Again, it's moving so fast. It's just like it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I was relieved to not have to get on a plane 2 or 3 times a month like I normally would, because I'm able.
Yep.
I'm currently in Tel Aviv, and I've been here since July. I haven't been on a plane once since getting here in July, and it's completely unusual, out of character for me. And I don't know that I want to go back.
Yeah.
I don't want to, like, I'll come back to the States, of course, and because that's my home. We're coming back in 2 months, but yeah, do I really want to do the conference circuit thing 2 times a month? I think I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, I know that people, when we were doing virtual stuff, like we had, I think, 3 or 4 virtual shows, people were comfortable, obviously, in doing those. But I think the problem is that with virtual, you're missing out on, I would say, 50% or more of the value of a show, right? So like the show is a show. You're going to have good speakers, maybe some mediocre speakers, and maybe 1 or 2 bad speakers that you try to vet out. But I think overall, that's one half of the experience, right? I'm going to learn something. Maybe I learn a shortcut or a new trick or something like that. But I think that the other half of the show is just as important, if not more important. And that is actually getting together, right? Mm-hmm. So we've seen a couple shows like Search Engine Journal and some of the other ones where they've got like a chat room or a way for people to kind of connect, but it seems or feels really artificial. It doesn't have the same, I guess, feeling that you would get if you went to a physical show, right? And of course, you weren't really able to do that at the time. Like you couldn't just go to a show because they're just not allowed. So now that you've got the choice between virtual and physical, I still think that physical is going to drive a lot of people to go to it. It may be more challenging and there might be more hoops that you're going to have to jump through, but overall, I think experientially it's going to be better for the attendees and the speakers because you're going to be directly able to connect with these people. So our event, we really pride ourselves on creating an environment where people feel welcomed. They're always a unique environment, right? So we have like a castle and some other crazy stuff. I think we're doing it at an Olive Mill for night 1, and we're going to have this rapper coming on and rapping some stuff, which is cool.
Sounds fun.
You know, they're really looking for that impactful or memorable experience, and I just don't see you getting that from virtual. I think virtual is great, and I think it definitely helped during the COVID crisis for sure. It gave people an outlet. I mean, you probably saw too with the DMO, the Digital Marketers Organization. You know, we were running almost weekly happy hours, right? Because people need an outlet to connect. Yeah. And that's kind of the piece I think that's missing from some of these conferences. They just want to blow off some steam and they just want to connect with each other and try to make new friends or, you know, continue on friendships that they already have. So it's challenging, right? Like there's no simple answer with this.
Yeah. So when things kind of return to a travel friendly sort of scenario, what are going to be some of the conferences that you're going to hit? Besides your own.
Like I have time. I mean, I think the last conference that we attended was SMX West. It wasn't a very pretty show. But, you know, people were still enjoying their time. It was right when COVID was starting to come out, and we were up in San Jose, and we were just scratching our heads like, man, this thing seems like it's going to be pretty bad. I wonder what's going to happen. This might be like the last show. And sure enough, it really was. But I think moving forward, definitely want to go see MozCon again. That's a great show. Moz always puts on a great show for everyone. I'm not sure which other ones I need to go to. I mean, look, I'm so busy. Like, it's crazy the amount of stuff that we have to do with everything going on. But I don't know. What about you? What kind of shows do you think you're going to go attend?
Well, like I said, I think I'm going to
Yeah.
kind of stop. But what I have been doing have been affiliate summit, uh,
Hmm.
the Internet Retailer Conference, IRCE, which is now called Retail
Hmm.
X. Uh,
Oh, they changed the name.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, and
Well,
I don't know,
no,
PubCon, and
yeah,
I don't know. I
it'll
have a
be,
whole list, but
you,
I don't even remember. Oh, Content Marketing World, et cetera. But honestly,
yeah.
I think I'm done. So maybe I'll go to one.
What's interesting is, I wonder how many of these are going to actually come back. You know, one thing that not a lot of attendees or even speakers know, I mean, these things cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to put together,
Right.
and it relies on attendance and sponsorship. And, for us, I mean, we put our neck out every single year, and, we put down our deposit in the hopes that and dreams that everything is going to come to fruition for us. But last year was definitely challenging, to say the least. Luckily, we work with really good partners. But I mean, I know that Brett over at PubCon, he had to have had multi-year contracts with his venues in Vegas, and I'm sure that, hopefully or luckily, he was able to recoup his deposits and whatnot. But it's a very serious thing, because 1 year of losing your deposits could kill an entire show. So, like, we're really interested to see who's going to be coming back, and who won't. And we even toiled with, do we come back? How is this going to end for us? This could be something where it's like, wow, we just don't have any attendees, and there's really no sponsors, and everyone's kind of wishy-washy right now, and we could lose a lot of cash. But I don't think that that's going to happen for us. But it's always like swarming in the back of my head, like,
Yeah.
this could be it. So
Well, I hope it's not. Uh, let's
I
talk
hope
about
it is too.
yeah, yeah. And what about DMO, like Digital Marketers Organization? What was the impetus to start that, and how does that fit into the bigger picture for you?
I mean, the DMO is really there as a gathering place for everyone to communicate, ask questions, try to make new friendships in a more virtual way, I guess. We are migrating Advanced Search Summit over to the DMO. So it's probably going to be like DMO Advanced, was probably what it will be called. But we're starting to do additional events. Actually, funny enough, what was it, like about a month ago, I had the idea of starting to do masterminds for the DMO. And it's basically, we just want to do a small get together of like 20 to 50 people, and, still provide almost like a conference experience, but more of a way for everyone to connect and share their little dirty secrets that they have. So we decided to do our first mastermind. That's going to be in February of 2022, and that one is going to be in Maui. So we're thinking that if people don't feel comfortable, like, who knows again what COVID's going to do, but if people don't feel comfortable, traveling, or potentially being stuffed in a room of like 400 or 500 people, maybe they have, like, some autoimmune issues or something like that, this may be the perfect thing for them, right? They can still kind of travel and be safe, but, be in a small room of 20 to 50 people and still have a really good time. So we're trying that model out, like I said, in February of next year. And it's a funny thing, we put the tickets up for sale, and we didn't really do like a huge rollout on it, but we put the tickets up for sale, and I think we sold 90% of them in the first like 24 to 48 hours. It was crazy. I was like, ooh, people really want to get the hell out of their house. So, I mean, maybe that's a COVID thing, or maybe that's something that we can sustain, in the years moving forward. But it's a new way for us to still be able to connect with our members, and also provide them with a physical outlet that kind of goes along with the DMO's virtual kind of component. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. So how many masterminds do you have in a year?
I think we were planning on doing maybe two. I mean, our ultimate goal, like when we started the whole show stuff, was that we would have three events, right? We would have a small, medium, and large, and Napa being like the medium-sized one. Large would be like DC. So we did DC a couple years ago, and that one was going to be around 500. And then we wanted to have the small, and the small, I guess the first fruition of that is going to be the Maui mastermind. So these masterminds will essentially just be these small shows we do once to twice a year, and we'll plan them, in really interesting locations. Maui just happens to be the first one because, well, I like Maui. And then I don't know, I've always wanted to do one in Wyoming, like in Yellowstone. So I thought that would be another cool location. So if this Maui thing is successful, we'll probably wind up looking at Wyoming, probably in the springtime or something in 2022.
Yeah, that sounds great. So how do you charge for a mastermind versus a conference like Advanced Search Summit?
It's rough. It's definitely different. With the Advanced Search Summit, it's basically you're coming to the conference. We're buying all of your food and drink while you're there. Super. I guess logistically, it's very easier than say something like Maui. With Maui, the difference is that your ticket price includes everything except for your hotel and travel. So again, we're going to be doing a mastermind where you'd come in the morning. It's a small like house basically, and we go through our agenda, and then the way that I like to do things is I like to have that work-life balance, and so half of the day is going to be spent indoors, typically in the morning time. And then the rest of the day is going to be used to do experiences or excursions. So like one of the things that we're going to be doing is there's this cool little valley called the Io Valley in Maui. And it's really beautiful, thick forest, river running through it, multiple waterfalls. And I was like, this would be a perfect place to just have like a cool meeting and talk about, some of the things that you're being challenged by, whether you own an agency or you're an employee, like how do you get ahead? So I was like, this is perfect. We don't really need a computer. We don't need, anything like laptops or cell phone service unless we get lost. But it's something that's different and unique. And again, like for us, anyone could stuff people into a room, right? It's happened over and over and over again. But what you can't do, and what's very, very challenging, is to provide an environment for people to be able to open up, feel comfortable, and do something that maybe they haven't done before. And so that's kind of like the genesis for our masterminds, is to just kind of get people a little bit out of their comfort zone, but not like fully. So we're just going to try to do different options for everyone. And maybe that'll change depending on the location. So like maybe in Maui, it's going to be a lot of water sport kind of activities or hiking to like beautiful waterfalls. And then maybe if we go to Yellowstone, maybe that's different. It's going to be more like horseback riding or ATVs or something like that. But again, we like to have those components to kind of break up the day with these masterminds, because I think people are halfway there for the actual mastermind itself. And I think the other thing is that they're there to connect with other people and again, make these memories, right? Like, oh, I can't believe we did this thing in Yellowstone, or I can't believe we did this thing in Maui. It was so fantastic. We had the best food. We had a unique experience. Like these are the things that, one, make me happy because it's not normal, or normal compared to the industry. And then two, it's kind of like something that they will take back with them. So
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that's weird for a conference owner to do that, but for me, it means all the difference.
I like that. I've had some incredible experiences on masterminds. Gone in an ultralight or microlight. I've gone
Nice.
in a shark cage off the coast of Cape Town. So that was weird, being like practically nose to nose with great white sharks. I've done canoeing in the Zambezi River in Zambia, where there were hippos and
Nice.
And crocodiles. Yeah, those are the experiences of a lifetime, and learning some cool
Right.
tip or technique is helpful, but people love experiences.
Right. Yeah, it's just like you'll never forget those experiences, right? Like that's the whole thing. You'll remember that you were, on a boat jumping into a cage, that there was a great white shark, and you learn how to do title tags properly or whatever it was.
Right. So what sort of content do you cover that is next level or unlike the content that you would get from most other SEO conferences?
I mean, from the Advanced Search Summit aspect of it, I would say that we try to vet speakers that have been in the industry for 10 plus years. We do have like spots for one or two people that are kind of up and comers, or people that are just making a lot of noise with some cool stuff that they've learned. So from that aspect, I think that's a little bit more traditional. But again, we try to vet who speaking a lot. I don't know how other shows do it, but I mean, for us, I think there's something like we have a list of 300 or 400 different speakers that want to speak in Napa pretty much every single year. And, we're only able to get maybe 10 or 15 of those to actually have a spot. And when we try to, I guess, get everyone's feedback of what they want to speak about, we also have a panel here of, industry folks that I'm sure you know who they are. But we'll have them vet the topic and make sure that the topic is appropriate, advanced, and that, someone's going to get something out of it. And then on the mastermind side of it, I mean, I think it kind of goes into two different buckets, right? So like one bucket would be, how do I grow professionally? Like just for myself, like, am I getting underpaid? What's my value? How can I bring more to the table? Things like that. Or, if I'm an agency owner, how do I get to that next level? How do I hire more employees intelligently? How do I make sure that, I can have additional clients without running into a brick wall? That's another aspect of it. And then the third aspect for like the masterminds would be like the dirty little secrets that we all kind of know, but we don't ever tell anyone. So, I think we'll be going through a lot of that. I mean, you could kind of draw a similarity to like maybe SEO Oktoberfest, right? It's just the who's who, and also what secrets are they going to share that they're not going to share with anyone else. And that's kind of like the genesis for us too, is like we want to be able to give these people hope and opportunity for the future, and we want to be able to give them something that they can take away as a cool little tool, or, a way to do something that's a little bit different. I know, like, as an example, one of the things that I use and I charge about $5,000 to $6,000 for is a keyword database for my agency. And I don't know of many other people that have the same type of database where we can calculate the ROI on every single keyword that we put in. So that might be useful for someone that just doesn't know how to do something like that. And it's just an Excel spreadsheet that I created years ago, and it works and it works really, really well. So that could be something on an agency side where they can use that to sell. It could be someone who works as an in-house, and they can now, be able to tell their boss, hey, if we do this project and we start ranking for these keywords, that could potentially net us, $50,000 extra per month. So it's value, right, for them. I think that it's important to have stuff like that in your little toolbox. And if you don't, it's something that could not potentially hurt you in the future, but it's something that you're going to miss out on for sure.
Yeah. I'm curious, what would be a secret or two you could share with my listeners that would be something that they could have gotten from an Advanced Search Summit or from a mastermind of yours?
I mean, one of the things that I'll be bringing up personally inside Maui is how we leverage LinkedIn to get targeted people to either sell to or to join like a virtual conference or a virtual event. It's a really interesting tactic that seems to work really, really well. But I mean, we're essentially creating fake profiles on LinkedIn, and and they've got quite the backstory. So they look absolutely real. And we kind of have some automated tools that help do outreach for you. So, if you're an agency, that'll help you potentially get leads. Or again, if you're in-house and you need new customers, could potentially get you some new customers too. I mean, I think it's unique to the person and what their needs are. It doesn't work in every situation, but it works in a lot of different areas. We're using it nonstop, so you'll definitely learn that if you come to Maui. There's four tickets left, so
Okay.
there's not too many more spaces.
So would you consider that tactic, fake LinkedIn profiles, to be black hat or gray hat?
I think it's definitely a shade of gray. I mean, it depends on how the person uses it too, right? Like, so if I use it and I just want to do nonstop spamming, that sucks. And it sucks for everyone that's involved. It sucks for you because you're going to get a lot of people that are pissed off, potentially get the accounts banned too. The more outlandish your campaign is, where it doesn't fit, the more likelihood you're going to get those personas shut down. So you have to be very careful in using that program. But I don't think that it's necessarily black either. If it was black, you would just be spamming everyone nonstop and you wouldn't necessarily really care. These are very, very targeted campaigns. And the way that we'll explain it to the people in the mastermind is like, again, don't just go berserk and think that you've got the power of God and you can just mow everything down. This is something that's very tactical and should be used in a very specific way for very specific things. So, but it is a cool tool, man. It works so good. It works so good.
That's funny. How long have you been using it for?
We have been using it for about, I want to say like 2 or 3 years now. It seems to be more prevalent that there's more. Well, I mean, it's hard to tell, right? But personally, when I log into LinkedIn, I look at the people that are contacting me to either connect or do something with me, right? And I'm like, man, that just seems so fake. He just doesn't have like a full backstory. The profile isn't filled out very well. The picture is weird. There's always these little things that I look at. I'm like, I just don't think that you're a real person,
Yeah.
So, you just wind up not connecting to them. But I mean, it depends on the industry too, right? Like I'm seasoned enough and I've been experiencing this enough to know like what would potentially be a fake person. But in other industries, they're not, right? Like if you took someone that was in agriculture or someone that was in a non-tech field, it would be very difficult for them to understand whether or not the person is real. And in fact, one of our clients that we use it for, we just went over to their business a week or so ago, and we kind of explained to their employees like, hey, these are people that are fake. And we're using them to try to get you leads. And there was one lady, and she was very nice about it. She's like, well, why wouldn't you just use real people? And I said, well, a real person would be great, right? And in an ultimately perfect world, like that would be the solution. But here's the thing. A real person can't reach out to 25,000 people in a month, right? Like try to do it. It's impossible. And it's just a numbers game at that point to try to get it to work. So if you automate these things, and you do it in a way, again, that's very professional, that's not spammy, we're just like, hey, look, I'm connecting to you, and like really be upfront too. Like I'm trying to connect to you. I have this service. I'm not sure if you're interested or not, but if you are, I would love to speak to you, right? The bot. And then, when the person responds and they're interested in it, then that flips over to a real person, and the real person feeds the needs of the person that is contacting you back. And then eventually you could potentially wind up with a customer. And the conversion rate on it, again, is pretty good depending on the industry, but it is an interesting tool, and not one that many people know how to use, can find to use. So.
Okay. Sounds like it's a terms of service violation with LinkedIn, but we'll leave that.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Have you used it for your boutique agency, and have you gotten some clients if you have?
I started in the beginning to use it for the agency, and I did get a couple clients from it, but for me, it was too much. I mean, I'm a small agency. I typically only have about 15 clients at max. We've got 5 people that work contractually here, and the problem with it is that it works to a point where the growth would be unsustainable for us in the current way that we do everything. So for me, for the agency, everything is bespoke, right? I don't have a lumped like product A, B, or C. It's what are your needs? What are the services that I can do for that? And then how do I go about doing that in a way that you can afford? So and then typically my clients for the most part are larger enterprise, the ones that I get. And I think that that's just based off of my experience working at GoDaddy and some other large companies, but they're difficult to get with that program. So, but I did get a couple, and they worked out to be long-term clients too,
Hmm.
that we're still talking to, and I think one we're actually still working with. So, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, what's a secret that you can share that's like pearly white hat?
So pearly white. Um, You know, I think for the most part, I mean, if you really wanted to go ultra white hat, I think, and this is a real challenge for us as marketers and as agency owners, right? It's trying to educate the customer. I think that that's a really particularly hard thing to do, and the reason why you would want to do that, as an example, and the white hat aspect of it, is content creation, right? So obviously there's ways to cheat with content creation. You can have a bot spin some stuff up. In fact, I just saw a an ad the other day for some AI bot that supposedly can spin up thousands of pages of content. And I was like, oh God, this again. So I think content creation is definitely something that people need to be aware of if they're not already. A lot of my clients, when they come in, if they're a smaller client, they'll assume that if you build it, they will come. They don't understand the benefits of content, so we try to teach them, how important it is and why you would want to do it and how it could potentially help with their sales funnel. So yeah, so I mean, if it's a white hat tactic, I mean, definitely getting content in their site would be the number one thing for us that we try to push. So
What would be a piece of content that stands out in your mind as something truly remarkable? And when I say remarkable, I mean worthy of remark. Like it's something that people would want to share, would want to link to, blog about,
like,
etc.
I think so. I'll answer your question, but in probably a roundabout way. I think what's important with content is trying to understand Google and what they're trying to accomplish with the SERPs, right? So a lot of times, at least in my experience, a lot of times people will just write content to write content. And it maybe it serves a purpose, maybe it doesn't, but they think that they're writing something that's important. And it could be any type of template. It could be an infographic, it could be a paragraph, it could be a video with a long story after it, whatever the thing is, right? But I think the thing that people ignore are potentially two issues. The first issue would be they don't write very well. And so Google is going to look at I guess, the intelligence level of the content piece itself. And they're going to say, well, this is well written, or no, this was not well written. And then obviously apply a metric to that, whatever it is. And then I think the other thing is repetitiously doing this over and over and over again, but using like the same template every single time. And I'd even say maybe a third piece would be they're not looking at the search engine results to see if the results match kind of what they're trying to produce. An example or a quick one would be, if I was trying to go into the medical content area and I was to produce content, you better hope that it's well written, and you better hope that it looks a lot or very, very similar to the other results that are out there, right? Like you definitely need to make sure that that all of those kind of buttons are patched up before you launch this content, because it's just not going to perform well. There's I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with this tool, but ClearScope, Bernard, love Bernard. But ClearScope is a great tool to try to use if you're interested in the level of intelligence that your article or your content piece comes across as. Written by a third grader, written by a high school student, written by a college professor. ClearScope is a great tool to try to figure that out. And then the other thing that is interesting, again, is, if you're selling a product or a service and your content does not match or look like the other stuff, I'll give you a really good example with one of my clients. One of my clients, he is in the AV equipment industry, and his website, he sells this stuff where TVs can like pop down from the ceiling or the floor or under a bed. And his problem is that he makes an amazing product, and it sells very, very well to architects and other AV professionals. The problem is that you've got Amazon and Walmart and other entities that are now selling like these Chinese knockoffs, right? They're noisy. They work for maybe a year or two. You get by with it, but it's not the most fantastic piece of equipment. And so for him, you're getting squeezed out of your industry or your sector, right? He can't play with these things anymore because he doesn't sell like right off of his website. It's a bespoke product that is different for anyone who purchases it. So like if I was a hotel and I needed 500 units or something like that, he's the absolute perfect person to contact for that. Now, I think what's happening, especially during COVID for him, is that again, these Chinese knockoffs and these lesser quality lifts are coming out, and that's kind of squeezing him out of his space. And so there's this dichotomy of wanting to create content, but also how do you stop from losing your market share, knowing full well that Google is now starting to prefer people that are actually selling the one-off lifts, right, to a home consumer or someone who just needs one. So that's challenging, right? Like how do you fix that problem? And for us, the way that we're approaching this is that we're kind of abandoning the vanity keywords for him, and we're starting to go after the longer tail keywords that are more geared towards the AV professional or the architect or designer, or maybe hotelier or however you say it. So those are things that you have to be able to see, and it is a total white hat tactic to just try to create the content to take back some of that market share. I don't think that the stores like the Amazon stuff, I don't think that they're going to put a lot of content together. They're just going to have one-off product pages on a really strong domain. So he's more than likely safe in the future, but it's a challenge, right? And so that's kind of the roundabout answer for you.
Okay.
I would definitely focus on content for sure as far as white hat.
Yeah. Yeah. And does your agency do link building, like outreach and all that?
Nope. I made a strong stance when I started the agency that I would not build a single link. And I have not built a single link for the last, it's like 8 years now, which is great because I hated building links. It's not fun. Now, that's not to say that we won't do a program that will, garner some links, right? By just naturally, having some content pieces or, maybe reaching out to someone that does a Forbes article and then, something else comes from that. We'll totally do that. But we aren't going to be like, I'm going to call someone or I'm going to reach out to someone and specifically try to ask them for a link to my client. I don't like doing that. It's very time consuming. And I think that the number of links that you get, you'll need, in most cases, so many of them, and it's so difficult to do something like that. And then there are houses that do it. I know Fat Joe sells links, and there's a couple other ones that are out there. But I mean, for me, it's not something that I'm interested in. And again, I'm working on mostly enterprise level sites or maybe mid-market. So if there is something that I'm going to get for them, I would say that it's more or less going in like Ahrefs or something to look at all of their broken links and then fixing it for them, right? So maybe I'll get them a couple thousand links back. Uh, so something like that I'll do. But yeah, I won't touch links with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's definitely something that is not fun for most
No.
people. I don't do it myself. I don't enjoy it, but I have a team that does it. We use Pitchbox, and yeah,
Oh yeah. Okay.
it works.
Alex.
But the key, I think, to this for the client is if it's on a pay-for-performance basis, then it de-risks it for the client, because otherwise you're just paying like a PR firm a monthly retainer and hoping that it yields something valuable. And
Right.
who knows? Who knows if that's going to pay off? And then, you just kind of strung along for 6 months or whatever, and you're like, I'm not seeing any results yet. And I'm like, that's coming. It's coming. This takes time. And then maybe a
Yeah.
year goes by and you got nothing out of it because they didn't actually do a very good job. So we charge on a pay for performance basis for the
Cool.
links. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, we have clients where like one of them is in alcohol. And I have a couple other clients that could potentially benefit from a partnership. So like one of them's in sports. Sports and alcohol actually go together fairly well, believe it or not. And so, we'll try to put two of them together, or, if I see something else that definitely looks like a fit, I'll try to like broker a relationship versus like building the links, because I know that the links will come eventually, right? It's just a matter of time. Or, we have done these one-off time things where it's like, I'll give you a perfect example of one, not that we did, but that I saw, and it was Sunoco Fuels, which provides gas for, I think, NASCAR. They ran a really interesting contest for anyone who wanted to join into it, but it was smell like the races. And what it was that somehow they did this. I don't know what it was, but they they had this cologne or perfume that smelled like burnt tires. That was great.
Oh, that sounds
And
disgusting.
no, I know, right? And I'm sure it was, right, to some degree. It probably was like gross. I don't want to smell like burnt rubber. But it got a lot of coverage, surprisingly enough. There was another one too. I think you might actually even know this one. It was somewhat famous, but it was Tiger Sheds over in the UK. They did a CAD mock-up of a zombie apocalypse shed. Now they're building backyard sheds, right? Like nothing important. But they built this thing that was, I don't remember how much it was, but it was either like $300,000 or like $1 million, and it was a zombie apocalypse shed. Had like this thing where like turrets up at the top so you could kill all the zombies. And that did really well for them too. So I mean, from an agency perspective, I would be more apt to create something like that to get links than to just do the humdrum thing of like, I got to go build these links, I got to call these people, use Pitchbox, whatever. It has its place. I don't deny that, but for me, I'm just not interested in it. It's not fun. It's just like a grind,
Yeah.
and I hate grinds.
Yeah. Well, you remind me of with your Tiger Sheds example. So Rob Woods, long time ago, when he worked at Build Direct, he did this link bait piece, which was redneck home remodels.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know
See,
if
and
it's
that's
still
perfect.
live, still on the web anymore. But yeah,
But I'm sure on some level he got some sort of a return on that. And that's
he
fun.
did.
Like I would love to work on fun stuff like that. See, that to me is more interesting than just a grind, right? Like it's something that's fun. The client gets behind it, hopefully. And then, and then it pans out. The worst thing is if you do something that's totally off the wall and then it doesn't pan out and you're like, ah, crap, I just wasted a bunch of money and time.
Yeah. Yep. So I know you're in Phoenix, or in the Phoenix area. I'm curious, are you considering joining Genius Network, or were you in it in the past? Because that's not too far away from you.
No, they're not too far. I thought about it. Honestly, though, I'm just so busy with my own stuff that, like, Frank Watson is here, and there's a couple other really good marketers, Joe Sinkwitz. You know, it. I like to hang out with people, but I don't know. To me, that seems kind of forced. And I just don't know how much time I really have to invest in this stuff. And I'm like one of those ones where it's like I have total ADD with like hyper focus, and the second I get a shiny new toy, like I know that I will be spending an exorbitant amount of time, like going into it. It's like a Facebook addiction, right? Like shit, I'm on that thing all day. So
I'm thinking about Clubhouse. I'm wondering if you're using Clubhouse.
dude, I've had so many people who are like, dude, you have to get on Clubhouse. It'd be perfect for you. You've got like
it's
the
like,
voice,
dude, you've got to try out crack cocaine. It's amazing.
No, yeah, no, not one time. Not one time. First time's never free. I'm not into it. I don't know. I try to buck this. I'm not on Twitter either. I have no inclination to ever want to be on Twitter. Clubhouse, you know what? Not for me. Instagram, I don't understand why people want to see my pictures, so I'm just not going to be on that either. And maybe that's stupid as a marketer for me, but or TikTok or any of that stuff, I see where there's value in it at some level, but I also see it as a great detractor of my time. And my time to me is more valuable than pretty much anything else. I value my time.
You do need to value your time. It's important to guard it because no one else is going to do a good job of it. Only you.
No. Right. Well, when I was at GoDaddy, one of the things I asked the president, I was like, hey, man, look, I like meetings just like everyone else, but I'm in like 7 or 8 meetings a day for like 3 or 4 days. And the value that you're getting from me isn't there. And it's either going to come to a point where you're going to have to fire me because I'm not performing, or we're going to have to stop these meetings. And so he's like, do whatever you think that, is necessary. So I went and I killed meetings for like 6 hours out of the day. So like 2 hours I'd have meetings and the rest of it was just my time to actually work. And man, there was so many people that were pissed off. I had like my boss and my boss's boss and other people on the team, and they were just like, you're just not going to the meetings. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to these meetings. They're a fucking waste of time. Pardon my French, but it's a total waste of time. And I can't fathom that people, they kind of get lulled into this, right? Like, it's like, oh, these meetings are great. And, I've only got 1 a day and blah, 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 blah. And then it's 8 a day or, 3 or 4 days of nothing but meetings. And it's like, I just wasted my entire week doing this stuff. And yeah, maybe you gave someone some insight or whatever, but I don't know. It was such a waste of time. I hated it. I hated every minute of it. Just being locked in a room.
Yep.
Like, animal.
I totally get it. I don't like meetings either. And I don't think for the most part they're productive or worth anybody's time. I used to have a mug from despair.com that said, meetings, none of us is as dumb as all of us.
Oh yeah, I know, right? You never get anything accomplished.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different opinion, and you're all waiting for the one person who's just going to be like, we're just going to do this.
Yeah.
I remember too, my boss, we were in this conference, and he got on stage. He was like, I don't even know what we're doing here. We've paid a lot of money to be at this hotel. We're all in this room. We're all yakking away at this or that or whatever. And he goes, I haven't heard a single solution. And I'm going back to the office. Who's with me? And I left with him, and a couple other people left. But we totally walked out of that entire thing. And they probably cost him like, I don't know, $50,000, something like that. It was a full day at like a Westin, and they had food and like these little mugs that you'd bring back. And it was so over the top stupid. And it was a complete colossal waste of time. And from that point forward, I was just like, he's right. He's super right. Smart dude. Smart dude.
Yeah. Cameron Harold is another smart dude, and he has a book called Meetings Suck, which is very good. And I had Cameron on this podcast, and we talked about how bad meetings are and how to make the few meetings you're going to keep actually valuable. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. Yeah. Sounds smart, though. Yeah. Sounds real smart. But then podcasts, though. I love podcasts. This is great. But meetings, I could just totally do without them.
Yeah. So what's your favorite podcast?
I try not to listen to them a lot. Like I for the fun and entertainment value, not necessarily industry related, I love watching Joe Rogan. It's just fun fodder, I guess, to just put on for the day. Industry stuff, I mean, every once in a while, I'll find someone like Lily Ray. I'll listen to her on a podcast. I don't know which one she was on last, but or I'll go into Search Engine Journal and see if there's someone that's coming up in a podcast that I'll go look at. But I mean, generally speaking, I don't. I try not to waste my time with some of the stuff, and it's not to say that the people aren't fantastic at the podcast or what they're doing, but I don't know. Again, it's I'm moving so fast that it just turns into a time suck for the most part.
Yeah, I get it. I'm protective of my time as well, and I don't get on a lot of shows. I don't do a lot of podcast consumption. I just try and do my 2 shows because one wasn't enough. The Marketing Speak and Get Yourself Optimized, my other show, which is not an SEO podcast, by the way, even though it sounds like it. It's biohacking, productivity, and spirituality. So
cool.
That is fun. That's my passion project. I love that. But anyways, yeah, I'm careful about how much I consume. I don't spend a lot of time on Clubhouse either. I don't spend time on Twitter, even though I have 130 or whatever thousand followers, and apparently I post 7 or 8 times a day. It's not me, it's my team. I have no idea what I'm posting.
Nice.
Occasionally I'll check, and it's like, wow, that's good stuff. Yeah,
I see.
I endorse that
I'm
content.
A control freak. I want to know exactly what's being posted and when and how, and is that something that meets my tonality, et cetera, et cetera. That's really rough. It is definitely difficult for someone to write for someone else. Glad it's working out for you for sure.
It's been working out for years. Yeah, I love it.
And
all right, well, I know we're up to time here. So where would we send our listener who wants to maybe work with your agency or attend an advanced search summit or one of your masterminds or just follow what you're up to?
I mean, I would say, first and foremost, if you do want to contact me, you're always welcome to hit me up at jim@blushdigital.com. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. So if you're interested, great. Obviously, I can talk forever. If you're interested in going to Advanced Search Summit, just go to advancedsearchsummit.com/Napa. That's our show that's coming up in June. We'd love to have you there. We still have a couple tickets available. And then the mastermind, I think the best way to do it would be, we only have 4 seats left for Maui. It's going pretty fast. It's more than likely going to sell out in the next week or 2. But if you're interested in coming to Maui, you can just hit me up. Again, just email me at jim@blushdigital.com, and we'll see what we can do for you.
All right. Awesome.
And thanks again for the podcast. It's been great. I love being on shows like this. It's always a pleasure, and especially talking to new and interesting people that, I know that we've probably spoken in the past a couple times for sure. And I'm 99% positive we've run into each other at some of these shows, but it's always great to connect again too. So thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it.
That's well, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you, Jim, and best of luck with the shows. And I hope things kind of stabilize and people really play full out and come and show up in droves for you.
I know. Thanks. I appreciate it too. Hopefully they do. So you guys better come.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you, listeners. This is Stephan Spencer signing off.